Leo is, how do I put this? Fucking shit.
Now watch me whip. Now watch me nay-nay. Okay.
It's the latest addition to Netflix's catalog of terrible animated pet movies. I still don't think I've recovered from the Pete Davidson dog, and I didn't even make it 5 minutes in. For those who don't know, Leo is the most recent reminder to the public that Adam Sandler is still alive. In it, he plays an elderly lizard and is somehow more annoying than he was in Hotel Transylvania. I like these movies more though, mostly because Sandler isn't as prevalent as he is in Leo, and also because they have other enjoyable qualities. I just kept hearing about how this movie was super funny and unexpectedly emotional and heartwarming. Someone was even delusional enough to say it deserved an Oscar. And then I watched it and it was fucking awful. It's actually one of the few movies I've watched that made me feel physically ill. Well, it was either that or my breakfast of a protein bar and a V. So why the fuck am I ripping on this shitty Adam Sandler lizard movie instead of literally anything else? And spoilers, he's not actually a lizard, but I'll get to that later. Well, first off, my opinion is the most important and correct one, and like a leader of Crusader camps, feel the need to force it on everyone. How's that for a niche fucking reference? I'm also doing this because I really liked making the Jurassic World review, and talking about movies with animals in them is something I want to keep doing. Anywho, I'll quit the horseplay and lollygagging and calmly explain why this movie fucking sucks and why anyone who disagrees is wrong and belongs in prison.
First, the daddy climbs on the mommy's back while she's swimming in the water. The daddy reaches under the mommy to find her cloaca.
I was going to go over the plot, but most of it was just me explaining the characters, so I'll do those first instead. I guess we'll start with the titular character of Leo, and I need to get something out of the way first. He's a tuatara, which is a rare species of reptile that are only found in New Zealand, and nowhere else. They aren't actually lizards, but their own separate things descended from dinosaurs. I need to say this because the movie keeps fucking this up. Not only does Leo meet a fuck ton of other tuataras later in the middle of the fucking Everglades in Florida, but everyone keeps calling him a lizard, and it's the same thing as calling a cheetah a cat. Like, yeah, people will get what you're saying, but it's factually inaccurate and fucks me off every time I hear it. Anyway, Leo was a class pet along with this prick, and we'll get to him in a second. He starts out as an annoying fuck who hates children and ends the movie as an annoying fuck who likes children. And I mean that in the most ominous way possible, because if he wasn't a reptile, the shit he does with these kids would put him on a sex offender registry. I'm not even kidding. He's an old virgin fuck that develops close relationships with several children and tells each of them that they're special and not to tell anyone that they're talking. He also calls and texts them often and even goes to their social media and hypes them up. Not to mention that he sleeps in the same room with them and actively enjoys it to the point where he's sad when they call him out. His entire motivation for the movie is he realizes,
Oh, I'm gonna die.
and wants to spend his final moments in the wild because he's only experienced the inside of a classroom for 74 years. He gets the opportunity to escape when his victims take him to their houses, but realizes he likes children too much to want to escape into the Everglades. And may I remind you, tuataras don't fucking live there. But he fucks up his escape plan and instead decides to impart his reptilian wisdom onto impressionable children. This raises some questions. Like, I get he's old, but how does this animal know so much about human social interactions to be able to give life-changing advice to every single kid in his class? He spent his entire life in a classroom and is shown to not even know how to do basic math. So how is he an expert on anything except eating and shitting? He's also got a super annoying voice, courtesy of Adam Sandler, but I do have to give points to old mate Sandals for actually making an effort instead of going full crispy rat and just using his normal voice. I just wish he spoke a bit less, and I do admit it got slightly less annoying as the movie progressed.
I'll be in the Everglades dining on
Slightly. But there is another annoying reptile in this movie, and they win the award for my least favorite character, and that's the fucking turtle. I hate the fucking turtle. What's his name? Cunt or something. It's voiced by Bill Burr, and his most recent projects have been based almost solely on his extreme cynicism. Something that gets really fucking old, really fucking quick. I know he's in that other Netflix show, F is for Fuckhead or whatever. I've only seen like 25 seconds of it, but it seems to be the same shit where Burr writes his own cynical dialogue complaining about dumb shit that doesn't matter. His earlier comedy is more or less the same, but I don't know, it had a different vibe to it. More like he tried to get a knee-jerk reaction of anger out of his audience by saying something controversial.
First ladies, they've been out of line for a good 25, 30 years.
But as he explains further, he not only makes a decent point sometimes, but also criticizes the audience for not hearing the whole story or opinion before making a fair judgment. His character is just a cynical asshole the entire movie and actively delights in seeing Leo fail with his escape plan, and even exposes him to the kids. Which is funny, because exposing himself to the kids was Leo's next step in his grooming plan. Even though he's an asshole to Leo throughout the whole movie, he still saves the day and even claims to be best friends with the senile reptile, despite his actions throughout the movie proving the exact opposite. Then you've got the substitute teacher, whose name I genuinely cannot remember even though I watched this movie earlier today. She's this old school, no bullshit teacher that everyone over the age of 15 has had at least once, and she's treated like an arsehole for not babying the students by giving them stickers or letting them play games. Sure, she's overly strict and demands a lot from a year 5 class, but she's treated like the fucking devil. Apparently she was once a super bright and happy kid who went to the school she now teaches at, but I guess because of menopause or something, decided to become an arsehole because she was never treated nicely. All the personal development, courtesy of the not lizard, that the kids go through is thought to be because of her, and when she figures out that Leo can talk and is the reason behind this development, it ditches him in the Everglades in the hopes that he fucking dies, I guess. Bit harsh if you ask me. She eventually has a change of heart and decides to commit grand theft auto with a school bus and drive to the Everglades to find a tiny fucking animal. She's then rewarded for doing nothing the whole year by getting a full-time teaching job. So what actually happens in this movie? Well, it revolves around these fuckhead children as they go into year 5, a life event that will be treated as monumental as going into year 12. Apparently in America and probably some other places, year 5 is the last year of elementary school, or in Australia, primary school. So these fucking 10 and 11-year-olds treat this event as the last year of being a kid. And that is subtly conveyed through the terrible opening musical number.
Last year of being a kid, being
Yeah, if this movie couldn't be more annoying, it's also a musical, and a terrible one at that. It introduces all the kids that'll be groomed over the next 90 minutes, and even features the only black kid in the movie eating fried chicken. Fucking Christ. The song kind of introduces all the kids' problems, like the kid who was held back in 3rd grade, the bitch that doesn't shut the fuck up, and the kid who's helicopter parented by a drone. When they all get to school, somehow at the exact same time, we're introduced to the teacher. Not the bitch substitute, but the other one. She's so unimportant to the plot, she's not even worth discussing. We also get our first look at the kindergartners, animated as horrific monsters with unlimited energy, and I guess they're supposed to be funny? I don't know, I don't find high-pitched screaming, hyperactive and overstimulating animation, or running into doors particularly knee-slapping. Not even a minute and a half after it starts, the musical number is over, and we're introduced to the reptiles as they go over each kid's problems. Like we didn't just see them, and they incorrectly attribute these negative traits. Like the talkative girl being the oldest child, never being told to shut up. I don't have siblings, but from what I've heard from everyone with them, that's something typical of the youngest child. Or the supposed popular girls group, apparently all hiding some insecurity. The fucking turtle even says they're peaking at 11, which just shows me that the writer of this movie was a loser and didn't have any fucking friends and harbors resentment towards the supposed cool girls. The teacher tells everyone to shut the fuck up and shows them the class pets, who are dismissed as disgusting creatures. Also, they're talking this whole time. How can no one hear what they're saying? How soundproof is this glass? Later in the movie, the substitute can hear them talking through the glass from the fucking door, and everyone in this scene is way closer. So what the fuck? The reptiles point out that the teacher is pregnant and state how she's an amazing teacher directly to the audience, because why bother actually trying to write something effective when you could just flat out say it and not bother?
Look at her work, these kids. Salinas, what a pro.
Best since Miss Bilecki in the 60s.
The teacher steals food from all the kids, and her excessive eating is attributed to her pregnancy, but I think she's just got the munchies. We get some lovely Bill Burr cynicism about children crying over Charlotte's Web, and the teacher boots into a bin. The next scene is of a parent-teacher night, and the parents are all informed that the teacher has taken some time off for maternity leave, to which they all riot, even though they only had the teacher for like one fucking day. The kids also find out and talk about how they're gonna fuck with the substitute, which is honestly so fucking real. I don't think I've ever been a good student when there's a sub. Like, most of the detentions I've ever gotten, which there were quite a few of, were from substitutes. This is the night where Leo hears from some random parent that he's getting to the end of his lifespan, which the parent says is 75. This is later revealed to actually be incorrect, when Leo meets the other two Ataras in the wild that are over 100 years old. Once again, they don't fucking live in the Everglades, in Florida, but even this age range is incorrect. In the wild, the average lifespan is 60, and they're able to live up to 100. Only in captivity have they ever lived longer, being estimated to be able to live for 200 years. So Leo has nothing to worry about as long as he's treated properly, which he fucking isn't, as seen later, but these old two Ataras should be fucking dead. He also uses a long sticky tongue to eat this random bug, which two Ataras can't fucking do. Chameleons can, but two Ataras eat like normal lizards, and he does this so many fucking times in the movie. I'm just left wondering why the fuck they made him a Tuatara, call him a lizard, and then give him abilities that Tuataras don't fucking have. Like, for fuck's sake, do some research before you make your shitty movie so I don't get pissed. I'm the most important person on the planet, why didn't they cater towards me? Leo then spends the next several minutes trying to do simple addition to figure out his age, but remember, he's old and wise. This also leads to my least favorite joke in the whole movie.
I'm out of toes and fingers. What else can I count with?
I tell you, but there's kids around. I was talking about his tail.
I don't know, it just makes me furious. Leo pulls the fire alarm and the big dumb kid rushes out of the classroom holding their cage and fucks up all of the decorations. They even make a point to address it. But don't worry about that, because as soon as they move to where the other pets are, the enclosure is back to normal. Unless someone took the time to redecorate the cage exactly as it was before, this makes no fucking sense. He speaks to an insufferable rabbit and thinks he's gonna fucking die in a year. And once again, he fucking yells in proximity to people who somehow don't hear him. There's a fucking annoying blinking joke that doesn't make any sense, and we hop right into our second musical number. And this is where I turned the movie off on my first watch.
When the man...
The number goes for a full 30 seconds before ending, but the whole time the turtle is making fun of him for being dramatic, even though his supposed best friend thinks he's gonna die soon and he should probably support him. We're then introduced to the substitute teacher in a long and agonizing sequence where she slowly opens the door to a room of terrified children. This prompts the only joke in the movie that actually made me laugh. This is then followed by the most out-of-place song I've ever heard in a musical, and this one goes for like 10 fucking seconds. Also, does anyone else hear the Minecraft button sound effect here, or am I going insane? Also, this vacuum will be used as a replacement for jokes several times over the course of this movie. The substitute instructs the failed abortions to take home the class pets over the weekend so they can learn responsibility, which I don't actually think is a bad thing, but the movie does, so we'll go with it.
Pick one!
Okay, the lizard.
Not a lizard. So he goes home with a talkative bitch and we're visually assaulted with the monstrous kindergartners. As Leo tries to escape the house to go die in the fucking wild because he wants to actually experience things before his expiration, he's shown to be extremely non-athletic and moves super slowly. This is something that is natural of Tuataras, but not to this extent, of course. Why not make the girl never shut up so he can't leave before he says something to her to get the plot started, so that way the movie actually makes sense. But I'm probably asking too much from a Netflix original to actually be cohesive and consistent. Whatever, I'm still gonna shit on it for every little thing. Like this fucking freezing shit Leo does whenever he gets scared that definitely doesn't get super old and annoying. Leo gets thunder cunted against a wall and yells,
Mother of Godzilla!
which seems to be like a cover-up or censoring for God, but a kid says it earlier in the movie, so this is just another shitty, pointless joke. This is when the grooming starts, as he tells the talkative girl not to tell anyone about him, for valid reasons, sure, like he could be sent to a scientist for studying. But almost every animal in this universe can talk, so how is this the first instance where a person has heard one speak? Surely there's been other instances of animals talking to people across all of human history that hadn't been kept as a secret, and if this was common knowledge, which it definitely should be, as I stated, Leo likely wouldn't be sent to a scientist because it's fucking normal. Why couldn't most animals just not speak and Leo was special? Because later on a kid hears the turtle talk, which leads me to believe that every talking animal can be heard by people. Making people able to hear Leo and not the turtle would fix this awkward world building. Like, if the kid couldn't hear the turtle speak, it would further emphasize Leo's significance to these children and make for a tighter script. But fuck me for thinking, I guess. The girl, Summer, I think her name is, talks to this reptile about her insecurities about not shutting the fuck up before breaking out into song where she explains why she doesn't shut the fuck up. Extremely subtly, by the way.
I worry that I've lost them and I'm scared, so I start talking even more.
Leo sings his part and actually gives some decent advice on how to have a conversation by telling her to ask questions and let others talk, because that's how you get people to like you. I don't have an issue with this. The way Summer takes this advice is probably the most realistic way Summer would take it. She doesn't immediately get it right, like when she asks her mum,
What's the square root of 91?
but she makes an active effort and gets better over the course of the movie. But what's unrealistic is that the popular girls let her speak, and after she asks one question, suddenly like her enough to invite her to a party. I know they like her because they blatantly say it.
Why are you talking to Summer?
I like her now.
I know, I do too.
They also show that the substitute is fucking horny for the gym coach's penis. I guess she didn't pack a vibrator in a massive bag of weaponry. The next person to cop Leo is the helicopter parented kid, or should I say helicopter droned. This kid's problem that the ancient reptile will fix doesn't have anything to do with excessive talking. And it's not even really the kid's fault, but the drone that his parents used to watch over him and be overly protective. It does shit like keep him away from foods that he might be allergic to and people who might be sick, and even try to get him off a group chat where people were shit-talking the teacher. It's clearly a critique on overly protective parents that don't let their kids do normal kid stuff and shows the negative effects it can have on children. But before we get to the animal therapy, Leo isn't too sure he wants to continue with his grooming adventures yet, and has another escape attempt, in which he gets horribly tortured by household appliances and there's a weird out-of-place Godzilla reference. This results in the loss of his tail, and while he's roasting the dog for being dressed in a hazmat suit, gets caught talking about the kid. He once again tells him not to tell anyone and says that he's special. The kid makes a good point about stranger danger.
But my parents told me when someone says don't tell anyone, that's what I have to tell.
But then Leo calls himself a lizard, so I'm pissed off again.
I'm just a strange lizard.
Through another musical number, Leo dictates a note for the kid to write to the drone that's essentially a breakup letter stating how the kid wants space, and the drone deals with this breakup by binge eating and shit. Like a classic rom-com breakup. So the drone becomes all depressed and tries to guilt the kid for cutting him off, and Leo shows the kid how to have fun as a human, even though he's lived as a pet in the classroom his whole life and should know nothing about it. We later see the popular girl's parents complaining to the principal that the substitute is terrible, and it's revealed that she's sitting right in front of them, despite not being visible in the wide shot when she should be. And this eventually leads to the popular girl taking Leo home for the weekend, and this leads to the best thing in this movie, the mum. Like, holy shit. With a shelf and a rack like that, I'm surprised she's not in an IKEA catalog. Is this the time I should mention this review isn't directed towards children? The dad flexes that he uses money to get what he wants, and I think there's a musical number here, but I'm too distracted by the MILF yoga in the background to tell. Also, Leo's tail has already grown back. Tuataras are able to regenerate limbs to an extent, but this doesn't happen within a week. Instead of giving this girl advice, he dicks on her and convinces her that she's miserable because she knows everyone hates her. Because for some reason it's a trope that miserable people don't know that they're miserable. She says she's under a lot of pressure from her perfect family, so then Leo dicks on them as well. Like I said, this was written by someone angry at the popular girls. Also, the biggest sin of this bit is when he insinuates the mum is ugly. Like, yeah, kinda, but as long as you have a paper bag, you'll be fine.
We're all just people. And lizards.
Not a lizard. Up next is the party bit, and I might commit a crime if I have to talk about this one for too long. So basically, the popular girl decides she's awful now and talks to the losers, and they eventually decide to free all the petting zoo animals because they're bored or whatever. This is fucking stupid. If I get bored at a zoo, I'm not gonna go and free the fucking gorillas. I'll throw babies into the crocodile pit instead. That way, there's no collateral damage or crime committed. Like, bro, if I had a massive party thrown for me, I wouldn't get bored in 5 fucking minutes and free all the animals, including an apex predator. I'd at least try to be appreciative of the effort. As Leo is about to float away on a bubble to his freedom, he hears his victims calling out to him and decides pedophilia takes priority. A bunch of time passes and we cut to Leo getting laid out by the turtle, who really isn't acting like his best friend despite claiming to be. Leo briefly covers the issues he helped the other kids with over the time skip, like the black kid who has a really high-pitched voice. He apparently used his real voice to sing and was respected by all the other kids, instead of being violently bullied like he would in real life.
I really talk like this, but I can't.
He also helps the girl with divorced parents, and there's a musical number where he tells her that crying's for pussies. And for some reason, the girl is smart enough to realize that he's saying the opposite of what's true, and she talks about some random nerdy shit to make herself feel better. This is in direct contrast to earlier in the movie, when both both reptiles made fun of people for crying. Anyway, the next grooming victim is like the big bully kid who got held back. He implies that he's gonna fucking kill Leo, and the turtle manages to sneak his way into the kid's house as well. And I'm not supposed to see these cunts as creepy old pedophiles. His reason for doing this is that he wants to protect Leo, but it's heavily implied that he's actually just trying to prove Leo isn't special for helping the kids with their issues, because that's what best friends do. Fuck's sake. So Bill Birtle tries giving the kid advice, but horrifically fails, and instead talks about turtle sex. This brings up another question. How is Leo so wise and good in these delicate situations when the turtle isn't? They both lived in the same classroom their entire lives. Sure, the turtle may not be as old or might have come from the outside world, but that's never established. So I'm just going to assume that they have the same life experience. So then what shit did Leo experience that the turtle didn't that made Leo so good at giving advice? Shouldn't the turtle have the same or a similar level of knowledge? Am I reading too much into this? I feel like I'm reading too much into this. So then Leo talks about some dumb shit, is empathetic to the bully being held back and missing his friends, and all is good. Also, people like this line a lot.
Do you miss being a kid?
I'm just glad I'm still here.
It's a nice line, but the editing ruins it. Instead of letting the line sit and showing the comfort that it may bring the kid, we have a harsh cut immediately after. It goes from a quiet scene with softer blues and blacks to a loud scene with harsher, brighter colors and diminishes any emotional impact of the dialogue. The teacher starts to get suspicious of why the kids all love Leo so much and uses a real teaching technique of incentivization, where she lets the kids who do well in class take Leo home as a reward. She of course is treated like a bitch for this. We get a montage with extremely annoying music that shows all the kids' personal growth as a result of the talking reptile, and it ends with a fuck-ass principal praising the substitute for all her great work. Also, all the kids clap for her even though I thought they fucking hated her, but whatever. Now we've got the betrayal scene, where the fucking turtle records Leo juggling multiple grooming victims at once and sends it to the whole class. So of course the kids confront him on his bullshit, and while they're doing this, the teacher hears Leo talk from the fucking door. She tells the kids to get the fuck out so she can safely abduct the reptile and take him home. She might have also wanted some action as well. She gets mad at him because she's bad at her job, and all the praise she's been getting is for nothing, and they have another musical number. We learn that the teacher wasn't always a raging bitch, but because she's been mistreated, that makes her actions okay. And after like 3 minutes of conversation with some random animal, decides to turn her life completely around. Okay, so there's this class showcase day where they all dress up as historical figures like Winston Churchill and Joan of Arc, and they stand on boxes and talk about dumb shit. They incorrectly attribute their life lessons to their historical figures, and I'm just left wondering why the fuck this is in a kids movie. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, women's suffrage should not be undermined in a movie about a bunch of 11-year-olds, and Winston Churchill... It speaks for itself, honestly. While stating their life lessons, the kids realize they feel bad for being pissy at Leo, and the teacher suddenly decides the best course of action is to dump the reptile in the Everglades, I guess in an attempt to kill him. Was there really nowhere else to put him? Like in your house or another classroom? Surely there are easier spots to hide him than the fucking Everglades. And then to make things even more fucking stupid, she convinces the class that he ran away. This is downright evil of this woman, and I genuinely feel bad for Leo here.
What did I do? I never felt so bad.
Especially because she convinces him that the class didn't need him and that he didn't have an effect on them at all. It also sparks the worst musical number in the movie. Then the turtle decides that it's time to be an actual character instead of a cynical asshole and recruits the drone to go save Leo. But not before we cut back to Leo trying to rizz up some random bitch in the wild. The turtle catches up to the school bus where all the kids are to tell them that the teacher is evil and that Leo is dying. This starts a mutiny against the teacher, and I thought they were gonna fucking push her out of the bus, and I would have been in full support of that too. We also have this bit, which I think is supposed to be emotional, but I was just scream laughing. After seeing this horrific sight, the teacher decides it's time to hijack the bus by grabbing the steering wheel, which of course causes the bus to swerve violently and endanger an entire class of young children. Am I supposed to like this woman? She gives up, and the gym teacher just doesn't give a fuck, I guess, and everyone pretends like nothing happened. When they get to the theme park, they hijack the bus again and don't leave the substitute behind because apparently they need her to drive. But I guess stereotypes prevail and they get the Hispanic kid to drive because...
Hey, I'm from the Bronx. I've been driving since I was 8.
I don't live anywhere near New York, but this feels kind of racist. Remember kids, hijacking buses is always moral if your bitch teacher ditched your class pet in the Florida Everglades and you need to go save it. We see Leo again and he's met up with those petting zoo animals from earlier that have somehow all survived amidst the fuck ton of alligators. And we meet a bunch of even older tuataras that tell Leo he's not actually gonna die. He of course celebrates that he has several more years of grooming ahead of him, and the next scene is a Dark Souls boss battle against an alligator, and this scene is actually agonizing. Oh yeah, and the drone fucking throws it into the atmosphere. I think it's safe to say this drone solos the entire Leo universe. The kids somehow find Leo in this gigantic area, but not before they think he's dead and each give a eulogy for him. The movie ends with a painful reprise of the first song, and the substitute gets rewarded for being a terrible person with a full-time job as a teacher and takes Leo and the turtle with her. She also gets made to teach kindergartners, meaning Leo's gonna fucking die in the sequel. So that concludes my nonsensical rant about this random Netflix kids movie that I only made because everyone talked about how great it was. Like, I know it's a lot to ask from a fucking Netflix kids movie to be good, but could it at least be bearable? Yeah, it's definitely too much to ask. Like I said earlier, I want to keep talking about movies with animals in them, especially bad ones that get a lot of shit about the animals wrong. I've been interested in film criticisms for a while, and I've been interested in animals for even longer, so why not combine them both? I also want to thank you all for 1,000 subs, as well as for the amazing reception of my iceberg video. Every sub is another reason for me to leave this fuck-ass app behind forever. Also, if it isn't already out by the time this video has been edited, I'm making a Patreon soon, so make sure to ignore that as well. If you somehow made it all the way to the end of this video, I sincerely hope you did not enjoy it, and I ask you to please refrain from liking and subscribing. Also, be sure to leave a mean comment telling me how awful the video was. I love being unsuccessful.